let's do a little wrap up. What do we talk about in this episode? I think we started with your background and some of the identities. What else?
Yes, I guess just background growing up in Colorado and
Mm,
being restaurant owners and married life a little bit.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
cool. And a
just pretty good.
little cultural blend to your own family now.
Yeah, I'm so excited about that because Wes and I love food so much.
Yeah,
And so, my mom cooks Chinese food and
yeah,
Vietnamese food,
yeah.
and his parents cook Korean food and
Oh,
Shandong food
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
Chinese food. And
Yes.
I'm just so excited to have kids to be able to feed them
Yeah.
all these different kinds of foods.
Awesome. I'm so happy for you.
Welcome to Chai with Ping. This is Ping Robert. In this podcast, I cover underrepresented and personal stories. Join me with a cup of chai and take a listen.
So, no questions?
Not that I know
All
of.
right. Shall we get started?
Okay.
Cool. Welcome back to Chai with Ping. My name is Ping Robert, and today I met this cool girl from church, and she has a different cultural background than a Mandarin speaker. Usually, like a lot of people from China or Taiwan, we speak Mandarin as our main language, but she grew up in a Vietnamese Cantonese heritage, and she's right now here in Colorado. So I just want to welcome her to the show. Welcome, Alison.
Hi, Ping. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much
having
for
me.
coming. Yeah. So let's just dive right in, right? Because the listener has no knowledge about you. And would you please share about your background and some of the identities?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Colorado. I went to university in Colorado. I'm literally like a Colorado girl. um, so I have visited China a few times. Haven't been to Taiwan though. And my family owned restaurants throughout most of my childhood, and mostly my second grandma. I call her my second grandma, but she's pretty much my grandma. She's just not blood related, but she raised my younger brother and a lot, and she's mostly Western, so I learned a lot of Western culture from her.
Let's talk
Yes.
about why do you have a second grandma? What's the story behind?
So when my family first moved here, we moved into Denver, and my mom is one of eight. So they were all packed into one house with my grandma and grandpa,
Oh,
and our neighbor happened to be this older woman,
yeah.
and she loves kids. So she would just take my aunts and uncles out to museums or take them to travel and things like that. And then when we got older,
Mhm.
she continued to take us out, and she taught us, different cultures. She's been to China more times than I have. She's been to India. She's very well traveled, very well cultured. So she's taught me a lot about just having an open mind and being very empathetic. So she's taught me a lot and kind of shaped a lot of who I am today, really.
We'll definitely come back to that piece, but I'm interested. You said like eight siblings of your mom live all together in one house. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and
Where
my
did they
older
move
brother.
from? Oh, okay. Where did they move from?
Uh, Vietnam.
Hmm.
So my parents, well, my mom, that's like my mom's side. So my grandpa came here first, and they got a house, and then that's when my mom and everyone else came, and so everyone just piled into that one house when they were growing up. And then eventually they moved to a different house, a bigger house, in Englewood. And then my mom got married to my dad, and she was the first one because she's the oldest. So she moved out into a different home, and so we grew up in a different home. But my aunts and uncles stayed in that house for a long time.
Wow. Okay. I can't. How many rooms are there? I
Not
mean,
many, like
well,
3.
yeah. How do they actually gym up in those 3 rooms?
They
That's
just sleep on the floor.
okay. So there are
Yeah.
no bunk beds. It's just like one bed and then someone sleep on the floor and
Yeah, they might have had some bunk beds.
okay.
But yeah, a lot of floor sleeping, a lot of shared space.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And even till now, do they still live in that house if they're not married?
No, no. We sold that house. My grandparents aren't alive anymore, so
Okay.
a lot of my relatives are spread out throughout the US.
Okay. Okay. So they just slowly moved on because they kind of have that financial capability. Okay, that's very interesting. So when I used to live in the south, south south the Highlands Range, the southern part of Denver, our neighbors were also like three couples living together. It's like a multi-generational. So and then they're Vietnamese too.
Oh,
So for me, I
okay.
was like, oh, is that a thing that they just kind of support each other? I know like grandma is there. I don't think I see grandpa. 2 sons with their wives, and there is a granddaughter. And sometimes there is another aunt coming. Um,
Yeah.
Lovely people. And I know that they cook very good food.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
Vietnamese food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And then you grew up in a separate house with your parents. So you have
Yes.
you actually have 2 brothers.
Yeah, so I grew up with 2 brothers and we grew up in Aurora. And this was when there was like nothing out there. Like it
Mm,
was just fields and just a couple schools. Like now, if you go to where I grew up, like
yeah.
there's a bunch of homes. Like it's so busy out there now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so multicultural too.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. I feel
Yeah.
like Colorado is lacking in some cultures compared to,
Yeah.
California, New
Yeah.
York, and Chicago.
But I think like Aurora is one of the more diverse places. I don't know if
For
it's
sure.
the real estate price or whatever. A lot of like exotic or international cuisines are there. Edgemar is there.
Yes.
Good restaurants are there. Oh
Yes. Yeah,
man.
Korean food is out there. I wish there was more
Yes.
Korean food out here.
I know, I know. So yeah, the listeners, if you don't know, Aurora is east to Denver, and yeah, just a lot of different cuisines over there. I don't know why. We can probably have someone to talk about the history of Colorado. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah. So then at home, what do you speak?
So at home, I do speak Cantonese
Mm,
with my mom but my aunts, well, it depends on which, so, it's a variety of ages
mm-hmm.
for my family because one of 8, like some of them can speak a lot better English, so I'll speak English to them. And then some of
Mm-hmm.
my uncles are better with Chinese, so I speak
Yeah.
Cantonese with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Is there any difference because they migrated from Vietnam? Do they bring Vietnamese culture or they still stay in that Chinese culture?
So it's interesting. I didn't know. So I was raised more Chinese culture, but I
Yeah.
do have some friends that were more raised like with Vietnamese culture,
Mm-hmm.
and they actually speak a lot more Vietnamese.
Mm.
And they speak Vietnamese and Cantonese. But my family basically spoke Cantonese. I don't know too much Vietnamese besides Vietnamese food.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So still at home they cook Chinese food instead of Vietnamese food.
Yeah, majority. Only
Mm.
special occasions will my mom make Vietnamese food. My favorite is just a couple of these dishes, but they take forever because my mom makes them from scratch. So she only
Yeah.
does them for holidays.
Can you share something like how does it look like or what is it?
Um, they're like, I guess Vietnamese crepes. They're like clear, like
Yeah.
wrapped, like glutinous, and then they
Yeah.
have like shredded pork, or not pork. It's like ground pork,
Yeah.
and then like jicama and the, what is that dark? kind of mushroom-like.
Is it kind of black
Chewy.
mushroom?
Yeah, kind of like
Yeah.
chewy. I forgot the name
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so there's that, and it's like one of my favorite things. And we just put like kind of the Chinese, gosh, what is it called? It's like lettuce and everything else on top, and then fish sauce. I can drink fish sauce.
Okay. Is it like a wrap, like a lettuce wrap, and then you put those ground pork in it?
No, it's like already. So you have to have like a mixture. So it's like powdered white, and then you make a very thin layer of it. So it's made into kind of like a clear wrap. And then you wrap all that in there, and then you have like 5 or 6 of them. They kind of look like egg rolls, but they're like spring rolls, like Vietnamese spring rolls, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So it's kind of it's a kind of spring rolls, like with the rice wraps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's like
love it.
The wrap is like made from scratch, and so that's why it takes so long.
Oh, okay. So she doesn't go out and buy those ready-made wraps. Got it. The rice paper.
No. Yeah, it's like Vietnamese food takes a long time. Like a really long time. Yeah.
I think a lot of Asians food take that long as well. Yeah, it's like Indian food too, and Chinese food if it's like really authentic, marination and all that. That's true. All right. Let's talk about how your mom. So I know that you became your mom become a single parent?
Yeah. So my parents were separated when I was in, I think, sophomore year of high school. Okay. Yeah. So we stayed with my mom. So she raised 3 kids on her own. And so we basically lived in apartments for most of our lives until I got a job. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let's talk about how you grew up. Some of the stories or memories that you have within your family.
Yeah, so I think the fondest memories I have was Christmas. We still saw, it was very interesting. I don't know how it came about, like how we learned about Christmas, or, we weren't Christians. I grew up Buddhist. But Christmas was like the best time ever because, with 8 relatives, that means like unlimited presents when you're younger. So we would always go to that house where all my relatives were, and we would always have just a ton of presents because we were the first grandchildren. We're the oldest grandchildren. So, I don't know if that's like a cultural thing, but it's one of my fondest memories. Like we would just sit and just open like 20, 30 presents, and my aunts and uncles would stack gifts and just take pictures of like how many gifts we each got. And it would be like so high.
Yeah.
It was like,
so much fun and love.
Yeah. I miss that a lot. It was so much fun. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Does it change after the other grandkids come, or are there any other grandkids?
Yeah, because of just like our age gap. So the next oldest cousin I have, he's like 21.
Oh, okay.
So we have a really big age gap between cousins, but all of them are really close because they're only a few years apart. Yeah. But by then, everyone's kind of spread out. So they never got to experience that where they all lived in one home and they got a bunch of presents and everyone met. And I think they missed that. I think they would really enjoy something like that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I know. Like current times, who doesn't like gifts?
Yeah.
Wow, Christmas. All right, cool. Is there any special festival that you celebrate?
We did, well, back then we did, so Chinese New Year's is probably the biggest one. We would always clean the house, and even to this day, like, we got to clean the house before Chinese New Year's to bring in good luck and get out the old and everything. And all these small superstitions are so big that just when my mom told me, like, you can't buy new shoes for 2 weeks and you can't wash your hair the day of the New Year's. Yeah.
Oh, wow. These are the customs you guys still keep. That's so interesting. Like, I just feel like as more interviews I've done, it's some of the overseas Chinese maintain their culture a lot more than the people who actually live in the, in the main cultural boundaries. Like for me from Taiwan, we never did anything like that.
Really?
Oh, is it new shoes, old shoes? 2 weeks and not to shower. Is it shower?
Not shower. You can't wash your hair the day
Hair.
the actual because fat is fat.
Yeah.
So you're not supposed to wash away the good luck in your hair.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never done that. This is my first time hearing it. So it's
Really?
so cool. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Well, we found something unique about your family.
Yeah, I don't know where it came from. I feel, but like my other friends, I think have the same thing. I think now I have to go talk to them because I don't know.
Totally. Yeah. If listeners, you have the similar stories, please share with us and let us know that we're not alone. Or maybe I'm just a strange guy.
Yeah.
And so okay, Chinese New Year, which is like by this time we're recording in early February this year, 2021. It's actually next week, Chinese New Year. So you guys must be preparing already.
Yes. We're going to my mom's house we always celebrate on New Year's Eve. So we would go to temple usually after we eat dinner.
Yeah.
And they would have like a whole like celebration ceremony at the temple, and you would eat desserts like the tongyin. And so we would do that, and then we would celebrate, and then we would go home at 11, and then we'd go to sleep, and then it'd be the new year the next day.
Do you have the red envelopes later? Ooh.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we get red envelopes. Those are the best.
Yeah.
I used to collect them.
When you went back to grandparents' house, right? Another gift giving just with the money.
Yeah. So when we were younger, our aunts and uncles would give us a lot and everything. And then we grew up and now it's not as fun. But
because now you have to give out, right?
Yeah, now we have to give out money. I'm like, no, I want to be a kid again.
I know. Yeah. Wow. Those are the memories. Yeah. These are common memories for me too. It's like grandparents and aunts and uncles. But in my family, I think my parents are just too tricky, because there are 4 siblings on my dad's side. So, but each of them, they have 2 kids.
Oh, okay.
So they call it a special word. They call it 两面. It's like, so 2 off. So because I'm going to give you 2 and then you're going to me 2. So it's just, let's just call it off. Yeah. So then we don't get red envelopes from uncles and aunties. We only got it from grandparents and from my parents. That's it.
Oh.
so it's like, that's a very, very smart way of saving money. But
True.
We don't get any.
But that makes it for sad childhood.
It is. I don't know. I feel it makes sense now, but I never think of, because I guess my grandparents are relatively generous. Oh, I missed that time. Yeah, this year couldn't go home again ever since I moved here. So, maybe next year.
Yeah, hopefully next year.
Let's talk about the temple because I haven't been to any Buddhist temple here in Colorado. Is it like,
really?
Do you always go like every week or only on special occasions?
So my family only went on special occasions, which equaled one time a year for New Year's.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like the one tradition we did have for New Year's. We did go to temple, and now I have nieces and nephews. So there's actually like my mom said it was like the Chinese equivalent to Halloween, kind of, where the temple actually would give kids candy and like sweets and everything. So my mom takes my niece and nephew when that date comes around too now.
Oh, do you know when?
I don't remember when it is.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too. Is it around the New Year?
It's not around the New Year. It's a really random month.
Okay.
And I mean, she never did it for us, so I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay. I should probably interview someone from the temple because I haven't been. So where is the temple?
There's quite a few in Colorado actually. It
Okay.
depends. There's a few Vietnamese Buddhist ones. There's
Yeah.
a few Chinese Buddhist ones. So there's one in Lakewood that my uncle and my aunt belong to too, and it's I think the biggest one in Colorado. It's just off like Wadsworth and Dartmouth.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then we used to go to one on Federal too.
Yeah. I should find a chance to go and visit. I've never seen those ones. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
you should. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then to compare a little bit, because I haven't been to Vietnam either, so I don't know how different the temples are from the Chinese culture side. So yeah, definitely. And you mentioned that your parents were restaurant workers. So describe a little bit of that. Like, what do they usually do, and how is their routine? And do you have to raise yourself up?
Yeah, we pretty much did because my dad is a stubborn guy, I guess, a hard worker. So he just wouldn't ever close. I think Chinese New Year's, every so often they would, only because my mom would be so tired. But they were open 365 days a week, and it was really hard. I think as a kid growing up too, because my mom would wake up early to take us to school, and then she would get ready and then open the restaurant at 10 or 11. And then she'd be there until, 10 or 11 p.m. at night. So we would be dropped off at the restaurant. She would either pick us up or my dad would pick us up and then take us to the restaurant. And then we would have to literally just stay at the restaurant all night. We had nothing to do. Like my younger brother and I would just like occupy ourselves and do our homework and play games. So it wasn't the best childhood as a restaurant owner. So then by the time I was old enough, or my older brother was old enough, they would let us stay at home after school. So we wouldn't have to go to the restaurant. But on weekends, we would have to go to the restaurant and help out and clean or take orders. Like I learned how to make rice, like large things of rice at a very young age. And I took orders even in middle school. I was at the front taking orders for my mom. So yeah, I learned a lot though, I guess.
Yeah. Like how to cook and, receive customers and talk to them.
Yeah.
Wow. And is that so? I just wonder, because the whole weekend you have to stay in the restaurant and help out when you're older. But then is there a time that you just kind of stay home? And when does your second grandma step in to take you guys out?
Yeah, so I guess it depends. She stepped in when we were elementary, but she didn't take us on the weekends as like every weekend. She would just come every so often. So we were still at the restaurant most of the time. But then I think middle school to high school, we started staying with her on the weekends a lot more. Like we would have our own rooms and we had like our own little space in her home too. So she took care of us mostly on the weekends.
Yeah. Wow. And so does it also mean that you didn't hang out with your classmates or other friends?
We did. So our neighborhood was actually pretty cool. We lived in a cul-de-sac, and so everyone pretty much had kids there. So we grew up playing with all the neighbor kids, and then we still could go to our friend's house on the weekends if we had something planned. Then my second grandma would just not pick us up that weekend or anything, but she would let us know if there was like a festival, or she would take us to a lot of plays like the Nutcracker. She would take us to all the museums all the time. Wow. And I went to a camp, actually, like it was like a month camp, and I slept in wagons. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah. Wow. I thought of one question and now it just slipped through my mind. I was wondering, it should come back to me later, but Okay, got it. So, oh, wait, I got it. Did you have to translate or interpret for your parents when they go to school or when they have PTAs, like parent teacher conference?
Yes. And I still have to do that now with like doctor's appointments and things
Yeah.
like that. So I still have to step in to translate for my mom. And even like for vaccinations now, I have to sign my mom and dad up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do have to translate a lot. Yeah.
How does that make you feel though? Like as a young age, and then you're the oldest of the three, right?
No, I have an
No, in the
older
middle.
brother. So I was the
Okay.
middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's it can be a lot of work, because but you do it for your parents. You understand though, like if I was in Taiwan or in China or something, I would have to have someone. If I was at the doctor's, I would have to have someone, and I don't think they like having to depend on someone to help them, but it's hard, and when they don't have me around, they get taken advantage of, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Here.
Do you worry about that? Like when people kind of take advantage of your family?
Yes, there was one time I let my mom go to the dentist and she went to a Chinese dentist. And so I thought, she can talk to them. She understands what's going on and I don't need to be there. So she did go to the dentist and long and behold, they took advantage of her. They charged her like hundreds of dollars when it should have only been the initial exam.
Yeah.
But she didn't know, like she still was kind of like confused about what was going on.
Yeah.
So they ended up charging her hundreds of dollars just for an initial exam. That should have just been $40.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And what did you do after that?
I started going with her and they definitely stopped trying to take advantage of her. And I set the record straight. Like I have any patience for people trying to take advantage of people like that. It's terrible.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing. That must be a hard experience, like seeing people. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me very upset.
Upsetting. Yeah. Is there any other incidents that like you feel like you have to be there for your parents otherwise it's like they won't be able to manage it?
I think mostly anything that has to do with hospital or like government stuff that they may have to apply to, insurance.
Yeah.
Definitely more hard stuff. I definitely will be there. I've worked in the hospital before, so I'm very protective of my family when they have to be in the hospital because I know what needs to be done and what shouldn't be done.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah.
What about at schools?
School.
Did they treat you like did the teacher? I know right now the teachers are trying to be very inclusive, to respect cultures and all that. I don't know how you grew up, when you need to support your family to talk to the teachers.
Yeah, I'm quite certain that I had to take ESL, but I don't remember it though. So it must have been very brief.
Yeah.
There was only one other Asian girl in my class and then one half Asian girl in my class. So everyone else was Caucasian or, well, we barely had any African Americans either. We weren't very diverse here.
Yeah. And not that many Latinx either.
No, not in the area that I grew up. If you were closer into the west side of Aurora or north side of Aurora, there's a lot of Latinos and a lot more culture out there. Got it.
Did the teachers ever treat you differently?
I don't think they did. Like for my memories, I had fond memories of a lot of my elementary school teachers. They were very kind. Yeah. So I don't think teachers wise, they're all very good. I feel like it was just some students, I think. There was this one interesting situation, and this was when I was older. So this was when one of my friends had kids. And I had come to visit her and I hadn't seen her in a long time. So she had a daughter, and I had come to visit, and she was like excited to see me. And then her daughter was like, what kind of person is she? Like, she hadn't seen Asians. And she was like, I was like a real life Asian in front of her. She was so astonished. And I was like, this is kind of sad that we don't have enough culture in Colorado for them.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
you know.
What kind of,
Yeah.
what? Oh. And how did you respond?
I mean, I don't know how to respond to that, because I'm like, yeah.
I'm from another culture, and there's a thing called race.
Yeah, I'm a different race than you. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
wow.
was very interesting.
Yeah, I had that actually. I think it's also embedded in families. I used to work at the school near to my university, and there is this Indian guy who's my senior. We're from the same program, and used to work in the after school program. And there's a white kid. Look at us. Like, I think she's probably like, what, 4 years old? She looked very attentively, like, look at me, and looked at my friend, the Indian friend, a guy. And then she like look, and then she asked me, so Miss Ping, are you and teacher Sajid siblings? Is he your brother? And I'm like, no. Why would you think that? Because you both have black hair and you wear glasses.
You wear glasses.
And I'm like, oh, okay. But like, my skin tone is fairer than him. Why do you think that we're siblings? And she's like, black hair and your eyes are black too. So I'm like, cool. So I started talking about, I'm from this country, from Taiwan, and he's from India, and our skin color is different. And we're not siblings, and it's not like we can never be siblings, but it's just we're not. But it's that incident actually intrigues me. Like, how do we teach about race? How do parents teach about race, or do they ever talk about people who don't look the same as them? Yeah. So
I know. I think parents have a responsibility to teach their children about cultures, and it's unfortunate because there isn't that much culture around here for them to teach them, but I feel like if they are purposeful enough, they can go out to show kids that there is so much more to the world than just your little bubble.
Yeah. So that's why I was very appreciative about the job that I got. Actually, our vice principal hired us intentionally to bring diversity to the kids. They want to hire international students or diverse race groups in order to be there and for them to see, because it's a gifted program. So a lot of kids are very privileged and mostly white as well. Yeah. Let's move on to, so congratulations on being married last year.
Yes, thank you. Some good came out of the pandemic.
Yes, I know. You're one of the few who got married in the pandemic. And then you're going to have your wedding later this year. So
yes, we hope to be able to celebrate with everyone.
Yeah, I will try to be there. I don't know when the time is, but we'll talk about that later. I mean, I got an invitation, but there's no time. It's only the date.
Oh, yeah. No, there will be a formal invitation.
Got it. Okay.
Closer to May, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're married, and I know your husband has a very different cultural background as well, even though Cantonese, Mandarin speakers, Chinese culture heritage, but he didn't grow up the way that you did. Do you have any differences, like you notice any differences between you two, or or what are the things that you want to keep from your culture or upbringing to your family?
Right. I think yeah, we were definitely raised differently because his parents have different jobs and than the restaurant life for me. So he had a lot of opportunities too. and he's extremely well educated. So I think things that we do want to keep for our kids is we do want to have a second language, but we have Cantonese and English, and then his family has his Shandong and Mandarin and Korean, and I'm like, man,
it's not even bilingual. It's too many languages.
Yeah, we have like 5 different languages we can pick from, and so hopefully our kids will be trilingual, maybe. Yeah.
Wow.
And definitely he's very talented when it comes to musical stuff, especially his whole family.
Yes.
They all do things for the church, so I hope that our kids can learn an instrument or find a passion in arts also.
Yeah, I think one thing that you can have grandparents to share is their language ability, because they come more naturally than you guys, right? Yeah,
I think
maybe
so.
your mom can speak Cantonese and Wiz's parents can, I don't know, do both of them speak Cantonese?
Yeah, they
Or
both
do they speak Korean?
They speak. So Wes's niece and nephew, they speak Korean to them. So
what? The grandparents speak to the grandkids in Korean. That is so cool.
Yeah, because
so pop.
I know. And I'm like, it's so crazy for like when we go to dinners at their house, because we're speaking like 3 different languages all the time. Wow. Yeah.
Okay. Huh. Cool. Wait, but I forgot to ask you another question before we end. But you intentionally took Mandarin in college. Why is that?
Oh, yes. Yes. I really wanted to learn Mandarin because I had some friends that speak Mandarin. And so I really wanted to understand it a little better. And even now, Cantonese is not a very popular language, and it's probably going to be phased out in the next 30, 40 years. So for business also, I really wanted to learn Mandarin. So I know bits and pieces, but I really need to have a more proficient way of speaking Mandarin, though.
Did you ever encounter anyone to speak Mandarin to you because they thought that you're Chinese?
All the time. Like, I don't know if it's the way I look, but there's a lot of Vietnamese people that speak Vietnamese to me, and then there's a lot of Chinese people that speak Mandarin to me, and I'm like, I don't speak either of those. I speak Cantonese.
And how do they respond to your...
They look so disappointed. They're like, oh no, okay.
Okay, we don't speak that Cantonese.
Yeah, so I'm really trying to learn a little more Mandarin now. So,
is it true that there are many Vietnamese Cantonese here?
There are quite a bit. Yeah, there are quite a bit. And my husband was the first one that I met that was Korean Chinese. I had no idea that they existed more than I thought. I had no idea.
Well, him and his family will be on my list. They're on my list already, but just finding a good question for them and create a time.
Yeah.
Cool. So before we end, I'm gonna ask you last question. What's next for you?
Yeah, so our biggest plans, still growing my business. I'm in real estate, so that's my biggest thing, is helping people find homes. And then, of course, just the future with my husband. We have a lot of things planned, but we'll see how that all plays out this year, because the market for houses is so competitive. But I have faith that we can get into another home and have a next chapter of our lives.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So many people think that pandemic will impact on the housing market. Is that true?
Yes, but the opposite way than we thought. Okay.
Is it only in Colorado or in the whole US? Would you know?
So yes, I've been into a lot of meetings with the economists and people like nationwide just to see how everyone's economy has been affected by the pandemic. And, when this first started, my office and realtors in general were really fearful of like getting into a recession with real estate because we're like, oh my goodness, like no one's going to buy, no one's going to sell. But it was quite the opposite. Like I had one of my best sales years last year, and along with a lot of other agents, because there are so many people trying to buy right now, and we just have extremely low inventory here. And also we have a lot of federal government jobs that are moving in, a lot of companies that are hiring in Colorado. So we have a lot of people moving in. And so the Denver market, I don't think we're going to see too much of a recession if there is going to ever be one for Colorado. And then nationwide, though, I did hear someone from the East Coast in New York, in Manhattan, and she said the rentals there have gotten really bad. Like, and their real estate has dropped tremendously from what it used to be. So many people are moving out, and so many people have lost their jobs there. Yeah. And so New York's economy has taken a hit.
Yeah. But sure, like in Colorado, it's going up because like more people are coming in, and they can easily sell, but they can't get the right house for themselves.
Yeah, it's so competitive, but it's doable as long as you're,
patient.
Yeah.
Not in a time crunch.
Just very patient and be competitive.
Yeah. Wow. Is it the same situation outside of Denver? Because like I know that there's some it's not as busy or crowded as Denver. Like I know Lakewood or Inglewood. Well, Inglewood is still kind of close to Denver. Or like Littleton or even Highlands Ranch Park. Or is it also the same? Like the inventories are very low?
Yeah, even in the mountains where Summit County is, which is kind of like Vail and Breckenridge.
Yes.
They're having crazy bidding wars out there too. And these homes are in the millions, okay? These aren't cheap homes out there.
Yeah.
And so everywhere, mountain towns, Golden, Evergreen, Lakewood, the whole Denver metro area is experiencing very low inventory.
So you already said something like the tip that you give to the buyers is to be patient and maybe just plan longer time for the wait.
Yes.
Is there any other thing that you will call to action for the buyers or sellers?
Cash is king. And so we're fortunate enough to have a program where you can turn a buyer into a cash buyer right now. So cash right now is probably the best thing to be able to get into. Otherwise, yes, definitely just give yourself a little more extra time. If your lease is about to end, in June, I would even start now if you're trying to look for a home, because it's taken a couple months to get into a home. And then it's always, if you have a loan, you have 30 days to close also. So definitely patience, and just believe in the process though. I know it can be very daunting, and we've had some people that it's a lot of work.
Yes. Wow. Cool. So if the listeners want to find you, how can they find you or contact you?
Yes. So I do have an email. So it's Alison, ALISONCHURE for real estate, at gmail.com. And I'm also on Facebook for Keller Williams DTC with Alison Chu. So if you guys have any questions about real estate in the Denver market, I'm here to help for sure.
And Colorado too, right?
In Colorado, wait, say that again. Sorry.
Is it just like, is it only in Denver, or you cover whole Colorado too?
So I mainly do Denver metro area.
Got it.
But if you're looking down Colorado Springs, I can help you find an agent there. I have an
Okay.
amazing resource down there.
Got
And
it.
Fort Collins, I have agents up there too. So I can help you find anywhere you want.
Awesome. So you can do referrals. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'll also put the email and your link in the episode notes. So if listeners you're interested, you can take a look and contact Allison if you have real estate questions or reference, that kind of thing. And so yeah, at the end, thank you so much for coming to the show, Allison.
No, thank you so much for having me. This fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Chai with Ping. If you think someone will benefit from this episode, don't forget to share with them. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. If you like my show, you can buy me a chai with small gifts. Details are in the episode notes. Till next time!